Lots of us pastors, as we faced this week, have been asking a question of ourselves. What can we say that can make any of this feel any better? What could we possibly say that could make you all feel safe again? What could we possibly do that could create peace and hope when for so many of us it was stripped away this week, or has been being systematically stripped away over the last 10 years or so? I was on an airplane as returns were coming in. I was flying out of rural Ireland, and at the gate, the person who was checking our boarding passes at Shannon International Airport was like, "So, even over here in Ireland, we're watching you guys," saying, "Don't mess it up." And I'm like, "Well, I put my ballot in before I left. I don't know what to tell you, sir." Your mouth to God's ears, that's what I'm hoping for too. And the person in front of me said, "Do you think Mr. Trump will be elected?" And I said, "God, I hope not." The whole international community, even strangers just milling through an airport, have been watching what's happening here. Just like so many of us watched the returns come in. Just like so many of us 4 years ago and 8 years ago, literally almost to the day, Facebook Memories did a service or a disservice for me this week. I was like, oh, here we are, again. And I deliberately didn't turn on my in-flight television, but the people around me did, so it was still kind of in the air, and the tension was palpable as we watched the number climb, and the number climb, and the number climb. And I had flashbacks to especially 8 years ago, where I was with a friend, and we watched the number climb, and the number climb, and the thing that we thought was unthinkable happened. What do you do with that? Here we are again and again. So I've spent the last year steeped in Celtic spirituality, which is a different form of Christianity, a different way of entering the Christian story that isn't so much about the dominant Christianity that so many of us know really well, but a Christianity that lives alongside a deep earth-based spirituality. And the Celtic New Year is Halloween. And it is a time where death actually is venerated. So last week, you joined in honoring ancestors that have gone before in All Saints and All Souls. And that's part of the new year, is we remember who we have been, who has made us who we are. And we also celebrate everything that we have lost, to surrender what it is we have lost, to allow it to compost into the new life that will start peeking through come February and really come into bloom at the opposite side of the year in May, the beginning of summer. So the Celtic calendar reckons time about a quarter turn away from how we do. So the start of spring is just when the buds start to swell, not when they start to open. And so February, as opposed to high spring in March, when we normally count it with the spring equinox. Summer starts in May, when the weather starts to change and everything is alive. And winter starts in October. Right on cue, Colorado. But the lesson of this time of the year, which we watch with the leaves and the trees and everything in the earth, it curls back into itself What it no longer needs, what is no longer fruitful, falls away and becomes nourishment for that thing which is growing next. So how do we hold this devastation for so many of us alongside the lessons of the new year starting with death? There are lots of us who maybe feel like some things have died this year, this week. Our hopes for what the next 4 years might look like, our hopes for what change might be able to happen, our hopes for the direction this country might be able to go in. Sometimes the surrendering of those hopes is pretty brutal. It hurts. This isn't a nice spiritualized surrender of, oh, well, whatever happens will happen and I'm okay. Sometimes it's ripped. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes, most of the time, you grieve what is being taken, or you're afraid of what that death might look like. But time, according to the Celtic calendar, is a spiral. This is the time where we are called to surrender things, trusting that in a future yet unwritten, but in a way that we can believe in, this too will become nourishment for new life and new growth. But we're not there yet. That's 6 months from now. Right now, we're still in the grieving, angry, surrendering kind of space, right? So how do we ground ourselves in a future vision? We look back to look forward. Social media has been an instructive place in trauma responses this week. You have the people who are posting pictures of their pets saying, listen, I need to put some kind of positivity on this timeline because there is nothing here, and we thank God for those people. Thank you for the person who wrote the Chrome extension that anytime there is a picture of our incoming president, it is replaced with a picture of a cat. We love that person, right? There are the people who are feeling like we need to get up and do something, right? There are people who are saying, I will fight for you. I will be with you. I am on your side. I have your back. And they have this holy rage that is coming up and out. That's that fight response, right? And we thank God for those people because they help us ground and feel like there is a refuge, that there is a safe space for us. When over half of the citizens of this city, this county, voted against some of our lives. We need to know who the safe people are, and the people who are angry on our behalf are telling us, I am on your side, you are safe with me, I'm going to make sure you are okay. But rage only gets us so far. We can't stay in adrenaline response, even for the next 100 days until the inauguration. Our adrenaline glands, those little party hats on top of our kidneys, will not sustain it if we stay angry that long. And then there are the people who are like, all right, get your passports, get out. I'm moving to Canada. Can I claim refugee status? Like what, where might I be able to, Googling, where can I immigrate in the next 90 days, right? And we love them too, right? The fight is not for everyone, right? There are so many people who are like, I went through one. I don't want to go through another one. How can I get out of here? This is no longer my fight, and we bless them as well. There are all of these responses saying, and a lot of my Facebook is pastors, people I went to school with, people who I am engaged with, and overwhelmingly, Most of the pastors in my circles invited people to pause, to take a breath, to come back to what we know is true. Yes, it's scary. Yes, there is plenty to be angry about, and there will be more. Yes, some of us may need to put plans in place to get to safer places. Thankfully, Colorado is one of the safer places people are coming to. Yes, we are going to need plenty of cat videos. But take a breath and remember, who are you connected to? This is something that queer people and black and brown people have known for a very, very long time. We don't go anything alone. There is no such thing as actual individualism. That is a white upper-class fantasy. We need each other now. I can't survive on my own. We've been singing that song here in community. I need you to survive. That is a reality, has been for a long time for some groups of people, and it's some that we are just coming into relationship with, depending on your social location. But we remember our survival is bound up with each other. Our liberation is bound up with each other, and that has been building for a really long time. We have been building that trust in one another, tearing down those walls of individualism, those walls that keep us isolated for a really long time, so we can come back to that truth. And so even when the systems that are supposed to have our back are tottering and shaky, even when it feels like everything is getting ready to fall into the sea, we have a matrix of connection that will sustain us, that we have been fostering for a really long time. It has seen us through previous crises. It will see us through this one. There is a stream that flows through the city that makes glad the hearts of the people of God. We have come here specifically to spiritual community today. We could gather with whoever we needed to. Maybe we did on Tuesday night or in the days following our best friends. But you've come specifically to church today, trusting that there is something beyond you that can lend you some strength, lend you some peace, maybe lend you a little bit of that wider vision of understanding that can widen the scope of what we are able to see and imagine in this week, in this time, in this season. Something that we can root into, a sense of nourishment that can make glad our hearts. If you've ever been in organizing spaces, specifically with black and brown women and queer folks, there is a lot of joy in some of the responses to, like in the Women's March 8 years ago, there are videos of people dancing outside the White House. That there is an access to an embodied liberation, an embodied joy, an embodied freedom that irrespective of what is happening around us, they cannot take away from us. That joy is accessible, and it doesn't mean that everything is okay. Joy is not the same as happiness. It is not just wallpapering over and saying, la, 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 good vibes only, everything's going to be fine. It's not. It is something that looks squarely in the face of what is coming and says, you cannot steal my autonomy, you cannot steal my life, you cannot steal my understanding of my own sovereignty over my own body, you cannot take it away from me. And sometimes the candle flickers, And that's why I love that song, specifically the song, I will light the Christ light for you in the nighttime of your fear. Sometimes the candle gets snuffed out. We don't remember. We get lost in the anxiety, in the fear, but we come back to each other, to the people who remind us what is possible, what is on the line, what we're building toward, not what we're fighting against necessarily, but what we are building in spite of, what is growing out of this devastation, where we can still find life. When outside these doors, you are told that your life does not matter, that it belongs to someone else, that someone else has control over you, you come back here to be reminded that you are sacred, you are whole, you are holy, and we will remind each other of that every week. Irrespective of who's president, we hand each other back our humanity and say, you matter, your story matters, your life matters. I need you to survive. I am invested in your survival. You are invested in mine. And the thing about a spiral is that even though you are entering what feels like repeated history, you are entering it at a different point. You are different because you have cycled through this before. This church has been a sanctuary for a really long time. Since 2009. Before marriage equality was even on the books federally or even in the state, this church said queer people are holy. That was before I was even out. I was a freshman in college, right? Like this church has embodied that sanctuary, and that welcome went further than just queer people because they said, wait, hang on. Systemic oppression affects more than just queer folks. And so the list of who is included, who we actively are offering sanctuary to, has kept growing. Queer people, disabled people, homeless people, people whose family makeups look different than ours, people with mental health diagnoses. We have striven to provide a sanctuary for all of us, where everyone's holiness is reflected back to them, where their sovereignty is given back to them, where their voice matters, where they are able to speak into the culture of this church and have a voice and change it. That's why we are covenantal partners. We are in relationship with each other, with the people who gather here. When we say, no matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome, we mean it. And not just welcome to sit in the pews, but you're welcome to get your hands dirty, to start tending the thing that we have been building here for a long time, that we have inherited from people who have done good work before us, and now we are charged with tending the thing that is coming in this moment. But we're not starting from scratch. One of the things that, again, through the lens of social media, I see people doing is starting a new nonprofit, saying no one is doing this, no one is protecting X group of people. I guarantee you someone is. And so we don't have to start anything new. We just have to be ourselves more fully and find who else is doing the work and partner with them so that we lift each other up. We do not have to be anything other than what we are, but we have to be us really loud. So we will fly our flag. We will have our salty signs out on the marquee. We will open our doors. Do you know what November is? There are 3 awareness months that I am aware of, it worked, that coincide with 3 areas that this church has been doing the work for a really long time. Does anyone know? I know Mel knows one of them. It is Indigenous Peoples Month. That's usually in September, but yes, the Latinx Heritage Month as well. Mm-hmm. Is Trans Support Awareness and Visibility Month. And it is Homelessness and Hunger Awareness Month. We've been doing the work. We are in relationship with people who've been doing that work. And so it feels striking to me that those are some of the groups that stand to be hurt the most by this change in power. And yet we have already been uplifting, protecting, supporting, and resourcing these folks for a really long time. So we don't have to be doing anything other than what we are already. But this world needs us real bad. And so I invite you to shed what needs to be shed, to grieve, to feel your anxiety and let it go, and let it fuel the bonfire that you have already started, that is already keeping people warm. The people you already are and have proven that you are again and again and again. Because we aren't the same church we were 8 years ago. There was some of that, oh shit, what do we do? Energy at that point too. But we learned then, and we deepened into our identity, and we became literally the church on the hill that holds out some hope for people in this neighborhood. And so we are called to do that again. Deepen in. Find our nourishment. Find our roots. And I don't know if this is going to be a yearly cycle, if in 6 months from now we will see what is still blooming, or if it is a larger cycle of surrender and life reforming. But I can promise that there will always still be life. There will still be joy. That if we can be still and be in relationship with God, if we can be in relationship with each other, remind each other that there is a river which makes glad the city of God. That even when everything is falling apart, there is something that is stable right here, right now, together. We're not only going to make it, but in some ways, some perverse kind of way, we're going to find new life. The kind of life like the dandelion that grows through concrete. The kind of life that happens in spite of. Find nourishment where it is. And there will be some. Find nourishment with each other. Remember who we are and who we have been called to be. You're not alone. Have never been alone. Will never be alone. This community is strong, and we will see each other through to the other side, to the new life which we know awaits. Amen.